There are more than 100 Indian tribes in the United States. The Meskwakis were one of the most powerful. I made a film with them in 1961. Back then, it seemed that they had no future. But now, 40 years later, they've become a major force in the Iowa economy. This is their story. Iowa is the very center of North America. It's the focus of the great American dream. Mile upon mile of prairie covered in small family farms growing soya and corn. And right in the heart of Iowa is an area of natural woodland which has been occupied by the Meskwaki Indians since long before the white man. For 300 years, they've been subject to a policy of extermination or assimilation. But somehow, they've always survived. When I first met the Johnson family back in the 60s, Barbara was the main breadwinner. Jobs weren't easy to find, and her husband Len was often out of work.
We used to go out in the cornfield after it's picked, then pick corn and put it in the sack and go sell it. That's how we got our food, you know, bread and potatoes. We had a rough life, you know. That we used to go to town, pick coal, and put it in the sack for our heat.
We didn't have any indoor plumbing. We had to haul water from my aunt's place, buckets of water, you know, and we had to get fuel oil from the gas station to pour into our oil stove for heat, you know, and we had an outside toilet, you know.
In 1961, the future looked pretty bleak for the Johnsons. The whole tribe was dependent on government handouts to survive. Now, Len is a great-grandfather, and the Johnson kids all have families of their own. In their lifetimes, they've witnessed a small miracle.
Get ready to play Meskwaki. Good time, place to play. Treat yourself to a well-deserved break and get away from it all with Meskwaki. Relax in luxurious accommodations. Enjoy food fit for a king. Then, get ready to play. From hot casino action, live music to blackjack, the entertainment never ends.
In 1993, the tribe built a casino on the edge of the settlement, and it changed their lives. The Johnsons' old house lies abandoned, and Barbara and Len live in a new house with mains water and drainage. Len's now retired, and Barbara's kitchen is the hub of a huge family. They had 9 children and now have nearly 50 living descendants. But Johnson isn't an Indian name.
His grandpa needed a name because he was in a baseball team and they needed a name. So they just threw in that name Johnson. You know, it's just threw it in there just so he could have a name. So that's not really the family name because there was no family name. It was all Indian names.
By 1961, Len and Barbara's first 3 children were Kelvin 4, Kimmy 5, and Mikey 2. Mikey's now a truck driver and is married to a white woman, Kathleen.
His mom had 9 children, and all 9 children get along. There's no fighting or bickering among them. Each one helps out the other. Even the grandchildren get along real well. I mean, everybody helps everybody. If one has a problem, the other one's always there for them. Everybody's still sane with all the people in the family.
You think I'm sane? No, I'm just kidding.
Mikey's elder brother, Kelvin, commutes to work in a factory in a nearby town. His elder sister, Kimmy, works at the casino on the gaming floor. One of his younger brothers, Kyle, and 2 more sisters, Kyla and Kelly, work in the warehouse. The casino provides jobs for around 1,200 people, but only a quarter of them are Meskwaki. Most people prefer to work within their own Indian community, like another brother, Kent, who's the school janitor and drives the school bus. The revenue from the casino has provided Mikey with a house of his own, but even so, he sees it as a mixed blessing.
The casino is something that I wish was never, now I see it, I wish it never happened. I wish it never was here. I wish it never was introduced to the tribe, because back before the casino, the tradition was very strong. Everybody knew each other. Everybody talked with each other, visit with each other. But a good thing is you get a nice house, some monies every month, and you get to buy nice cars and all this good stuff. But I see it as a downfall, because since the casino has been here, our support to one another as one big family has kind of dwindled off.
Since 1961, the Meskwaki population has more than doubled to over 1,000. But for the last 300 years, ever since the French first moved into the western Great Lakes, the white man has been trying to exterminate the Meskwakis. The French by physical annihilation, the Americans by destroying their language, culture, and identity. In the early 1800s, they were forced onto a reservation, but by selling everything that they had, the tribe bought back settlers' rights to 80 acres of their old hunting grounds by the banks of the Iowa River. They are the only tribe in North America not living on a reservation. In a clearing, they built a village of wickiups, rounded tent frames covered in reed matting and elm bark. In the winter, the tribe would split into small groups and go hunting. In the summer, they returned to the settlement to farm the land. At the turn of the century, a smallpox epidemic decimated the tribe. The government destroyed their village and forced them to disperse amongst the woods. As the 20th century progressed, hunting became more and more restricted. All they could do was to lie low and keep themselves to themselves. But their growing murmur of revolt was captured in the 60s by Meskwaki cartoonist Preston Duncan.
I drew this one here for a newspaper. It represents the Statue of Liberty, and you got an upside-down teepee holding the fire. And then you have the Constitution down here in one hand, and then the Statue of Liberty is standing on piles and piles of Indians and animals, eagles, horses, buffalo, that were almost wiped out, you know.
But the Meskwakis were never destroyed. They have a built-in survival mechanism. The tribe is divided into two halves. Depending on whether you're firstborn or secondborn, you're either a Gishku or a Dukan. And all of your life, your half of the tribe complements the other.
I feel that Gishkos they're strong, they don't cry as easy, and Dukans are kind of like, I find them as being weak and crybabies. That's the way I see them. So I'm just glad to be a Gishko.
In battle, the Dukans could advance and retreat, while the Gishkus could only advance. So one half of the tribe is always committed to sacrificing itself for the survival of the other. Individual competition was always seen as antisocial. So when the American government replaced the hereditary chiefs with an elected tribal council, it wasn't seen as democratic. The new system tended to attract those who wanted to further their own positions by cooperating with the white government. All the real power lay in the hands of a government agent. To further weaken the tribe, the government offered large subsidies to relocate Meskwakis in jobs and new homes thousands of miles away from the settlement. Barbara Johnson was one of the few lucky exceptions who found a job locally. Alex Walker is a member of today's tribal council.
I think probably it was probably the United States government's intention to try to mainstream them into American society, and maybe they would forget about their Indianness and forget about being Meskwaki, and maybe never come back and just become assimilated into the majority culture.
In the 60s, the Indian Bureau decided to gradually close down the primary school on the settlement and force the children to go to the local white town, where they'd have to talk English. The result today is that 80% of that generation no longer have Meskwaki as a first language.
I've kind of lost the language because all the schools I went to, we weren't allowed to talk the language, and a lot of English was spoken. And I believe had I stayed on the settlement throughout my life, I think I would have really been fluent with my language.
The crunch came at a public meeting in 1967. The Bureau of Indian Affairs announced that they were finally going to close the school.
We asked the government agent what gave him the authority to act against our wishes. The agent shouted, "I can terminate you guys right now." A Meskwaki elder replied, "Only the Creator can terminate us."
The agent flew off in his small plane back to Indian Affairs headquarters to put the closure plans into effect. And what happened next has passed into the annals of Meskwaki folklore.
Shortly after takeoff, a large black cloud appeared out of nowhere. The agent climbed to fly over it, but as he gained height, so did the cloud. Finally, it engulfed him.
When they found the body, he was still clutching the handle of his briefcase. The rest of the case and its contents were totally destroyed, so the closure never took place. Using their treaty rights, the tribe won an injunction against closure, establishing a legal precedent right across the United States. But the Meskwaki school continued to be run by the Bureau, and at the mainly white high school in Tama, friction continued over the next 30 years in a series of walkouts.
Students who walked out today traveled to the Meskwaki Indian settlement. At the settlement, students and adults talked about racism in the school and in the community. For years, white students and Native American students have struggled to understand each other, so they often have just avoided each other.
It's probably because they're mainly scared of what might their friends say about them or what the other people say about them.
School officials implemented 2 new programs in recent years, programs designed to help all students get along.
Anytime you have 2 different cultures trying to blend together, we do have some concerns, and we've worked at those concerns, and my assessment was that we were doing some things better.
I know that things aren't going to work out right away, but overall I hope it's going to resolve a lot of the problems in the schools, the fighting, the calling names.
For more than 2 hours today, students talked about race relations and what it will take to help wipe out racism in the school. It goes both ways, the students say.
They're just as discriminating against us as we are against them. Maybe if all of us work together, then maybe we'd all be able to get along. I just think
In 1994, government cuts got rid of the Indian agent and allowed the Meskwakis to at last run the settlement themselves. They raised their own national flag and gained control of their school. Now they've developed their own curriculum in their own language. But Meskwaki children still have to complete their education at the same local white school. This is the first day for one of the Johnson grandchildren and his first close contact with white America.
And if that guy says, "No, I don't mind," okay, they'll give him time and a half pay, won't they? Now, let's say something breaks down at the paper mill, and you're a maintenance guy, something breaks down, you work your 8 hours, and they can't even run the paper mill till the maintenance guys come in there and fix.
Many find it hard to adjust. They tend to sit at the back and are unwilling to come forward.
You get made fun of, you get put down, kind of not looked at just because of who you are, Meskwaki or whatever. But a lot of people don't want to go because of it. and that's not right. I think right now what's going to be coming up, these younger people that are going to college right now, I mean, they're learning and they're just going to bring it back here. That's what I feel. It's not happening now, it's not happening right away, but it's going to happen.
The tribe's building a new school on the settlement. It could enable Meskwakis to use their own language right up to university entrance. The casino has already funded a whole range of new amenities. A general store and petrol station beside the main highway. A kindergarten and primary school where the children are taught in their own language. A new health clinic to replace the government-appointed aspirin doctor, as he was known. And a special unit to deal with drug and alcohol abuse. The tribe now even provides their own sheriff. They're investing heavily in land, and today the settlement is 100 times bigger than the original 80 acres. But how will this new prosperity affect their traditional culture?
100 years from now, any people around here that speaks Indian, it's going to be very, very few. Maybe 5 or 6, if any. But I don't think there's going to be that many. Our culture is changing too fast. It might be gone sooner than that. When the language goes, our religion goes.
Religion is the very essence of being Meskwaki. The ceremonies take place in a longhouse. From the roof hang sacred bundles containing relics from the ancestors, who are the intermediaries between this world and the next. So each Meskwaki has a personal relationship with God. It's inherited. If you don't share the same ancestors, you don't have the same connections with the spirit world. And so, unlike Christianity, there's no room for converts. The knowledge is passed on orally from one generation to the next, and no one else is allowed to know. It's a family matter, and very private. The Meskwakis value their privacy. This is why the roads have never been metalled. The mud and the dust deter curious sightseers from intruding in these quiet woodlands.
To be Meskwaki means to be able to speak the language and to basically try to live according to the teachings of the Creator. And those were to be honest, to live decent, to be responsible, to care for the family, and to love the elders, to love the little children, and to respect everything that's in the creation.
All the creation that He has made around us, like the trees and the Mother Earth, even the air that we breathe, anything that's involved with God, what He has created, is with us every day, every second of your life. When you have that, you are always close to God.
Meskwakis are buried in their clan burial grounds in full Indian costume. The grave is protected by a pile of logs and then covered with an Indian blanket. There are comforts for their journey, a favorite toy for a child, a can of beer for a man. No sooner than 4 days and no later than 4 years after the burial, an adoption ceremony takes place. It's much the same today as it was when I filmed it in 1961. Someone of about the age and status of the deceased is adopted by the dead person's family. They're given a new set of Indian clothes, and these are worn when they're fed and officially adopted by their new family in their wickiup. The dead person's spirit is asked to go to join the ancestors, since their duties amongst the living will now be looked after by the person adopted in their place. This woman isn't going to live with the family who are adopting her, but she'll act as the dead woman's proxy on important family and religious occasions. There's a feast for representatives of all the other clans who have come to witness the ceremony. Besides the visible guests, the ghosts of the ancestors are here too. 3 singers begin to sing traditional adoption songs. Just as the Christian kneels to pray, so the Meskwaki dances, beating his prayers into God's own earth.
The tribe is like a fire. At the center is the hot burning coals, which is the traditional community. And off to the side is half burnt embers, which are people that believe but maybe don't participate. And off to the side is the gray ash, the people that have lost their beliefs and everything. And that part we can leave behind. But as long as that center core remains of that fire, the tribe will survive.
For centuries, the Meskwakis have been a target for Christian missionaries. 40 years ago, all the children on the settlement attended the Presbyterian Sunday School because they got a free meal. But after 100 years and only a handful of converts, the mission was abandoned. Today, the settlement's an open target for competing denominations.
All right, now this is the one-year Bible, and it has a portion from the Old Testament and a portion from the New Testament. And
Few
then
whites
a
are
psalm
sensitive
or
enough to
proverb.
interpret the resentment in a Meskwaki silence. Christian notices which appear on tribal property are seen as an invasion of privacy, and their literature mysteriously disappears into the trash can.
I know that you have come here with expectations, and the expectations is that you want to hear about this one called Jesus Christ. Now I have come.
Barbara was brought up a Christian and taken to church regularly by her mother, Pansy, a Sioux Indian who married into the tribe.
Well, she took my brother and I to church from when we were small. We just grew up going to church with her, and that's why I'm with the religion now. And I go to all, the feasts around here, and I go to the doings, adoptions, and everything, because I believe that we all worship the same God. We just have different ways of worshiping Him,
And I tell you as well that
Now, 3 generations of the Johnson family regularly attend the mission, but they're all women. The men follow the tribal religion.
I kind of remember wearing like suits, dressing up and going to church, and I guess it didn't matter. I mean, when I think back on it, I personally like the traditional ways, the Indian traditional ways.
My boys are traditional, but the girls they go to church. That's all I know. But I try to tell them, but she tells them this and I tell them that. So I don't know what's in their.
Once, everything Meskwakis needed was in the land around them. Money was never very important. Today, the casino pays a share of profits every month to each member of the tribe. Most people still need to work, but the casino provides the pocket money, and even the kids can get new cars to go to school.
They got this much free money coming in every month, and so they kind of think, well, I don't have to work because I got this money coming to me, and there's just no motivation to do nothing but go shopping, buy a car. They don't know any values of actually working and earning their own money.
And there are a lot of families, I think, that they neglect their children because they go to the casino so much. They go and play bingo and they go play the slots, and like there are a lot of kids that are left home, So I think there is and then you hear about more alcoholism and drug addiction and all. I think that kind of stemmed from the casino.
The casino also funds the housing program. Houses often pass on in the same family, but they always belong to the tribe. A free house and a share of tribal profit has attracted expatriates to return. Many of them were born far away and don't speak the language and have married non-Indians. No one ever came back before, and if they do not or cannot integrate, it could seriously weaken the traditional community. Only male expatriates qualify for a new home on the settlement. Karina, another of Mikey's sisters, doesn't qualify because she's not married to a Meskwaki. She lives with her kids off the settlement in a trailer park.
They always say everybody's related on the settlement in some way. So like if you can't marry them because they're your relatives, so you'll have to go out and find somebody else, you know. There are so many guys that are married to white people on the settlement. They have houses and everything, and they're just, they're mixed now, you know. So.
Mikey's Uncle Bob married out of the tribe. In the 60s, he went away to college.
He married a white lady just 45 minutes from here, and you never ever see them. Their grandma lives right here, and they don't come see her. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not saying all white women are like that, but that's just an example. They turn you away from your traditions, they take you away from the Meskwaki life, and if things don't work out right, they take everything from you. They basically run your life. My grandpa and grandma,
Told him never to marry
they
a white
always
woman.
told me when I was younger to never marry or be with a white girl.
I don't know what their reason was, but from what I gather, it's like they can give you a hard time, you know, like with the laws and everything, you know. If you left them, they could get you for all your worth and all that, you know, whereas when you marry an Indian, they don't do that, you know.
But Mikey's wife, Kathleen, is a rare exception.
She's really fascinated with Indian ways. She feels such a closeness in the family, and I'm very happy that my family allowed her to really come into the family, you know.
It's not easy for either culture to adjust to the other's very different lifestyle and codes of behavior. For example, here in the Senior Citizen Center, the men tend to eat separately from the women.
You're supposed to be unclean when you're menstruating, you know, and to stay away from the tribal doings, and you're not supposed to eat at the table with them, you know, and all that. That's just this is part of their belief, you know. And like I say, it says in the Bible also, so I believe in that, you know.
Well, when I went off to school, that was the first time I would be around white people. Every evening, I would go down to the cafeteria, and as I was gathering up the food, I would look down at the fork and spoon and realize chances of a young girl using those same utensils on her period were very high. Then after I ate, I would go to my room and get sick. And I would do that for about half a year. And I basically asked forgiveness from my gods to eat, because I needed this education. So that's how I survived college.
This constant conflict with white ways brings the biggest challenge to Meskwaki identity. Do they risk becoming like the apple, just redskins on the outside, but really white at their core? What conflicts lie behind these eyeless faces? In a small community where speech can be divisive, learning to read the signs is all important.
Remember, if somebody says ho to you, what do you say?
The kids are brought up bilingual, but the way they interpret the world is Meskwaki.
Moonbeams make us feel safe and protected as we sleep peacefully.
A plume means peace, friendship, and family. It is carried generation to generation.
The shield shields us from harm. The sun gives life. Thunder brings us rain to survive. Fire brings warmth. The drum brings us together. R represents prayer. Prayer is power.
Everything around you has a meaning. Nothing happens by chance.
Well, we were having our pow-wow in 1993. All of a sudden, a gush of wind picked up the whole tent and threw it aside. It was a shock to the tribe as a whole, and a lot of people had their own ideas of why it happened.
They said the reason why it happened was because they weren't supposed to have the crooked staff out there, the eagle staff. Only certain clans can handle that eagle staff, that Meskwaki flag.
It was like being punished without knowing why we were punished.
Being victimized without any obvious reason is something the Meskwakis have long learned to live with. The local town of Tama was the prosperous center of a thriving farming community, but Indians were never welcome.
If they thought I was white, there seemed to be plenty of job openings, but when I showed up, they seemed to be magically filled within 10 minutes because that's how long it takes to drive to town.
Now the tables have turned. Today, the white economy is dependent on the Meskwakis, and Tama has been passed by. It all started to go wrong for the white community in the 1980s, when the farming economy collapsed. All over the Midwest, small farmers went bankrupt. Many of the shops and businesses have closed, and the lower-paid jobs have been taken over by Hispanics. And now the biggest employer in town is shutting down, with a loss of over 400 jobs.
I kind of feel sorry for them because they're trying so hard to make ends meet, and it's not. Sometimes I see it not working, and I feel very, very lucky because I don't know. It's hard to explain. I'm glad to be Indian. I'm proud to be Indian.
Although many in the white community now depend on the Meskwaki casino, it's widely regarded as a social evil. But for the Meskwakis, it's different. Bone dice is just one of many traditional gambling games. When the tribe owns everything, the individual has very little to lose.
4.
Gambling has always been part of Meskwaki life, and here they were gambling after an adoption feast for the possessions of the deceased. If these had remained in the home, they might have attracted the spirit to return. So once they've been redistributed, they're staked against the dice. Meskwakis deal with change without abandoning their traditional ways. A family with a modern house still keep their traditional wiki up for ceremonies. And they still grow plants that are special to them, like their own sacred tobacco, and traditional vegetables like beans and Indian corn. This has a narrower cob and is less sweet than the commercially farmed variety. After it's harvested, it's stripped and then boiled. It's then picked off the cob by hand and dried for the winter. This is agriculture which goes back centuries. But a lot has disappeared over the last 40 years. When Mikey was small, his great-grandmother wove rushes from the river into mats to cover the family wickiup at the powwow grounds. But in the 60s, agricultural pesticides polluted the river. So there are no decent-sized rushes anymore, and children no longer dare swim in the once clear water. Reclamation of wetlands upstream by white farmers caused a huge rise in the water level of the river, and in 1972, most of the tribe lost their homes in a matter of minutes.
We just lost everything, just everything. We just didn't have time to put things up, and it just, ruined everything. And so we had to have help from the Red Cross. You know, they gave us new furniture and everything.
The old cookhouse in front of the longhouse collapsed, so the ancestral relics were moved to higher ground. The flooding became a regular event, killing many of the big trees down at the pow-wow grounds, so nowadays there's less shade than there used to be. Nevertheless, when pow-wow time comes around, all the families repair and rebuild their wickiups, and for 4 days in August they'll live together as a tribe in the old way. The frame is made of willow saplings which are bent over and tied together. The knack is getting all the hoops at the same height. These frames are left up from year to year, and in the old days, when the Meskwakis travelled from camp to camp during the winter hunt, it meant they could quickly put on the reed mats and get under shelter. Every family has its cluster of wickiups within the village. Getting ready involves the whole family. Those who have moved away come home. The powwow is the biggest social event of the year.
It used to be the powwow was our one main source of income for the entire year. 4 days, and most families sold souvenirs. The ticket sales for people coming to visit, we relied heavily on that. We understood that people wanted to see a Wild West show, so we marketed to the person who would show up. We don't have to do it anymore. Now we do it just because we want to do it. And when we have our powwow now, it's sincere.
40 years ago, women's skirts were decorated by sewing silk ribbon onto a plain background. These are still worn, but fashions change, and some of the younger women now wear a jingle costume with lots of small bells made from the top of tobacco tins. Nowadays, the tribal distinctions between different Indian costumes is disappearing. The important thing is that they're made to be as colourful as possible, to reflect the beauty of heaven. There's no need anymore to earn money by making things, but there are still those who keep up the old crafts. Nadine is famous for her beadwork. She gets commissions from all over the States. She's working on her husband's powwow costume. She likes to change it every couple of years. The day of the powwow dawns, and slowly people emerge from their wickiups and start getting ready. The powwow evolved from the annual harvest festival. They called it a powwow to attract white spectators. Their gate money isn't important anymore. What is important is the reuniting of all the families on the settlement in a tribal celebration of being Meskwaki. Stallholders and craftspeople travel the North American powwow circuit to sell their wares. Now Indians come from all over the United States to compete in the dancing, and there's a big communal kitchen to feed everyone. The Johnsons have their own stall selling Indian food. Barbara's speciality is Indian fry bread. Formerly it would have been made from maize, but nowadays the self-raising flour comes from the supermarket. It's Len's favourite food. Grandma Pansy and most of the rest of the family are there too.
find that powdered sugar because they use also makeup.
Their newfound wealth has made the Meskwakis important. Everyone wants to keep in with them, and state politicians go round the stalls wanting to be seen as Meskwaki friendly.
Great man.
Leonard Youngbear does good business with his art, reflecting the strong warrior tradition. Men who have fought in a war are more revered and more influential than in the white community. Veterans open the powwow, parading their flags. They see no conflict in volunteering to fight in support of the very same American government which is still legally committed to destroying them.
In the old days, the warriors were the means by which the people were able to survive. And when I was growing up, they still esteemed those people that had been to war. And I always remembered what I was taught about by the elders about how the warriors were always the ones that laid down their lives for the welfare of the people, for the good of the people, for the survival of the people. And to that end, I've actually lived it. I've lived the game of survival in combat in the tropical jungles of Vietnam. And also to that end, that was why I was willing to step up, and when there was enough people that wanted for me to serve on tribal council, I remembered what I was taught, and that is to try to do the right thing for the people. So that's why I was able to accept becoming a tribal council member. How many students are we talking about? Native students?
Over 200.
There are no salaries, no political careers for council members, but there is a huge commitment.
Have you guys got any questions? There's nothing you have to consider on the operational cost.
It all seems very relaxed, but they're handling an annual budget of millions of dollars.
It looks like we have a good tribal council, and they're willing to listen and do what the people want.
The Meskwakis have a status now in the outside world. Even the state governor comes to the powwow to pay his respects and meet the people. He may be puzzled by the presentation, but such a visit would have been inconceivable 40 years ago. The Meskwakis fly their new flag alongside that of the state and are proud to have recognition. But to most of their white neighbors, they still remain an enigma. The only area of the settlement which is public is the casino, where the tribe always wins. The revenue has created a mini welfare state. But it's only now, faced with the need to operate in the business community, that the Meskwakis have recognized the benefits of trying to educate the world outside. A display has been set up by the tribal historian, Jonathan Buffalo.
We're not the same Meskwaki we were 200 years ago, or even 100 years ago. And we can't expect the Meskwakis in the future to be like us. But they'll still be Meskwaki, because as long as they believe that they are Meskwaki and pray as Meskwakis, they'll be Meskwaki.
In order to survive into the next century, we must become more capitalistic than we have in the past. We lived in a communal way, and that has gone out the window within the last 50 years. We like to develop industry for the tribe. Hopefully we can get into companies that are already in existence and buy out a couple of them and train our young people to work in those industries.
In the arena, the women lead the dancing with a dance which was taught to the Meskwakis by the Shawnee tribe. Originally, it was part of a religious ceremony, but the ceremony died out, so the dance and songs lost their religious significance and came into the powwow. Len still dances, and in this dance he leads the men. While other tribes have slowly lost their languages and their culture, the Meskwakis have clung on to theirs. But now they're at the cusp.
By 2020, I think maybe that would be the cutoff date for this culture of the Meskwaki Nation.
You can live in both worlds, and you can incorporate elements of both to make a life for yourself.
I don't really feel like it's gonna get any worse. I mean, I think all it is just going up, up, up.
This is a dance for a good corn harvest. When the men and women cross over in the middle of the dance, it represents cross-pollination. Everyone thinks that because a dance is traditional, it always stays the same. But both the costumes and the performance have subtly changed since Barbara and Len danced in the 60s.
You just never know what's going to happen. Nobody might not even be here in 30 years. Who knows, you know?
I think I'm right on a fence. I can go this way, I can go that way, but I really don't know anymore. Everything's just changed so much. I just don't know.
Within a generation, the Johnsons have gone from being on the breadline to a comfortable lifestyle. Will commercial success now do for their children what 3 centuries of ethnic cleansing failed to do to their ancestors? Is it inevitable that they will gradually dissolve into mainstream America? Or is there something so special in being Meskwaki, something which the white culture cannot offer, that they'll continue to survive as a separate people?
Anybody can become an American because it's a political term. People come from Europe, Asia, Africa, and become Americans. And they can quit being American. They can all go back home to Europe, Africa, Asia. The difference is we have no other home except this continent, and we can't go back any place except here. In 100, in 1,000 years, there may not be any Americans, but I can say there'll be Meskwakis.